card gamers? Welcome back, boys and girls. Hey, today I'm going to take a look at a game called Mystic Vale. Now, this game has been around for a long time. Sometime, maybe you have tried this in the board game version, or really, I shouldn't say card game, I guess is technically what it is. I played the digital version on the Switch, and so that's what I'm reviewing. But I want to talk to you about the game overall. So it's kind of gonna be all encompassing as much as I can. Anyway, does that sound confusing enough for everybody? All right, now that I got you good and confused, Mystic Vale. What is it? If you haven't played it before, it's what is called a deck building game, where players take turns purchasing cards to add to their deck in order to accumulate points. And at the end of the game, the player with the most points wins. Now, don't let that term deck building game confuse you like it confused me. And now probably this is just, I don't know, maybe this is just my own ignorance, but when I saw deck building game, what I started thinking of was, oh, okay, like Magic, Pokemon, I'm putting a deck together. That's what they mean, deck building game. No, that's not what deck building game. Apparently, that is not the official definition of a deck building game. When they say deck building, they're saying what I think of as like deck crafting. Like as you play through the game, is your part of the game is your deck being put together or altered in some way. And then as you continue to play through the deck, you continue to alter it. And that's essentially what the game is. Now, that's what they mean by deck building game. And that is actually the definition of a deck building game proper. So I did not know that coming into this. And that's very interesting because I now know that a lot of trading card games and collectible card games incorrectly refer to their games as a deck building game. So it's weird. It's one of those weird things where there is a commonly used incorrect definition of a word or phrase, and there's also the correct definition that some people are using correctly. Anyway, this is not a English language podcast, but thank goodness for that. I would not be very good at that. But anyway, what is Mystic Vale? Well, in this game, kind of an interesting twist. You're trying to cultivate land. That's what you're doing. You're not battling orcs. You're not trying to like save a princess or anything of that nature. You are cultivating land. You want to try to get the land to be as beautiful, prosperous, and fruitful as possible. Now, I was also a little bit misled because the picture on the front is of this like Middle Earth looking elf, lady. And so I kind of went to those types of tropes, but it's not really about that at all. It's all about the land. So all the cards in the game will either have a mana point or a rotten point on them, or sometimes they might have both of those, or they might have neither of those. It might just be like a blank card. At the beginning of your turn, you're dealt a bunch of cards to you face up until you have a number of cards that show the total number of cards shows 3 rotten points. So you might be looking at 10 cards before you get 3 rotten points showing, or you might just your first 3 cards all have rotten points, and so there's your 3. So you keep looking at cards until you see 3 rotten points. However much mana you have showing at that point can be used to purchase upgrades for your cards. So you can essentially upgrade a card so that it adds a mana point, or you could upgrade it so that it gains you points right away, or the next time you play it, it gains a point, or it does some other effect. There's a lot of different effects and abilities, and so that's a pretty cool thing. But the other thing you could do is you can gamble. You can gamble if you're feeling really lucky and show 1 more card from the top of your deck. Now, you might get lucky and it doesn't have a rot point, and so you get whatever's there. So if you reveal another card and it has another mana point, then you can spend that mana point to buy your upgrades. But if you get unlucky and it's another rotten point, then you spoil. If you have at any time more than 3 rotten points showing, what it's called is you spoil, which means all your cards are discarded. Your turn ends and you get no points. Ooh, man, really bad. You do not want to spoil. Now, there are some times when there's no card available that you can purchase for the amount of mana you have, so you have to gamble. But I generally saw it as very risky. Now, I know as I say that, I already know one of my friends who's hearing this and they say, yeah, that's what I would do. I would gamble like 5 times, just keep gambling until you get a crazy amount. Well, okay, you could play that way. So, that I did see as a pretty interesting aspect of the game is am I going to gamble and try to get more, or am I going to be satisfied with what I have? And so it's a good decision, process there. When your turn ends, all the face-up cards are discarded, but you bank any points that were on those cards. So some cards will be worth a certain amount of points. So every time they go to the discard pile successfully, you earn that many points. And when you finish your deck, all you do is you shuffle it back up and you start to draw again. So you keep going through your deck, accumulating these points, and that's the game essentially. The game is fun, and it's pretty casual enough that I think anybody could play and have a good time. Anybody could pick this up. It's not one of those games that's like super extreme complex. It's hard to understand. That is not the case. And a matter of fact, in the Switch version that I played, there's a tutorial that kind of walks you through how everything works, and it's pretty informative. They did a good job with that. But I will say this, with the game, there is enough strategy to try different things. So you can try some special cards that like discard cards, that are showing face up. So you can use those to get rid of your rot points. Or you can, there's other angles that you can take to try to accumulate points more quickly. And so I like that. There's a little bit that you can explore doing things differently each time you play. It doesn't work out to be the same game every time. It's a good, fun game, but is it worth a purchase on the Switch? That's one thing I want to talk about this. Now I'm going to take a break and I will try to answer that question when we come back. A couple of things I need to mention about Mystic Vale. In the version that I played, you can set any number, well, I shouldn't say any number, up to 4 total players, and you can choose whether those are going to be human players that are playing, sitting next to you playing the game, or AI players, computer players that you're playing against. So you could play a one-on-one against a computer, or you could play, 4 players, each competing on the same board, and 3 computer players and yourself. And then of course you've got online play options where you can play with randos or however you want to do that. So there's a lot of different options for it, and there's different ways to play it, which I think is good, and that's essential for a game like this. If you didn't have those options, would be an issue, but they are here. So I just wanted to put that out there that you can try that. And with this version of the game, you have the base game that's available to you, and then there's another expansion. I think maybe it's called the Veil. I can't remember. You have to forgive me, but it's unlocked from the beginning. This game on the eShop is $22, the base game, which comes with that first expansion. There's also additional expansions available, I believe right now, for $7.50 each, or I think there's a bundle where you can get both of those for $11, which is, you save a little bit doing it that way. $22 plus, if you wanted to get all the expansions that are available currently, it would be 11 more, I think. What does that put you at? 33? I'm not a math expert, but I think that's right. Now, you might hear this and say, well, okay, $33, that's not bad. If the game is good, then that's pretty good. That's okay, whatever. The board game, if you're purchasing on Amazon, you can get for around $30, and expansions are about $30 each. So you're definitely saving money with the Switch version over getting the physical board game on Amazon. Now, the caveat to that always is that if you have the physical thing sitting in your hand, there's always value in that. And I'm not just talking about the value of like sitting around the table with your friends and playing. That's obviously gives you a different feel, but actual financial value of being able to resell that game later on. And oftentimes you can recoup your money if you wanted to sell it. Now, obviously, if it's so good that you really enjoy it, then you don't want to sell it. Doesn't make that big a difference to you because you're getting your enjoyment out of it. I should also mention about this, though, that there is an app available on the Google Play Store and I think maybe the Apple Store that is about $5 for the basic version. And from what I can see, I didn't play that version, but from talking to somebody who has, and from what I can see from screenshots and videos, it looks almost identical to the Nintendo Switch version. So my question then becomes, why is the Nintendo Switch version so much more? $5 compared to 20. And now I know some of y'all are going to say, well, that's the Switch tax, man. You know, you pay more for everything on Switch. I mean, not that much more. $5 compared to 22 seems a bit egregious, but I understand that there's a certain amount of convenience. I can just drop out of Animal Crossing when I'm done playing that and then jump into Mystic Vale. Like I get it. I don't have to fool around with my phone and waste my phone battery. That's one of the reasons I don't play a lot of games on my phone is because man, it just saps the battery so quick. I won't be able to use my phone. But anyway, that's maybe it's because I have like a really cheap and not very good phone. But that was one question I had about the game. Here's another issue I had with the game. While the Switch version is cheaper than buying the physical board games and everything, there is no achievements whatsoever in this version of the game. There's no unlockables outside of, if you purchase the downloadable content. It's, for me, that makes a big difference in the replayability of the game because, and don't get me wrong, now, if you really enjoy playing Mystic Vale, and it is a fun game, right? But it would have been so much better if there was if it kept track of your stats, how many times have you purchased this card, or how many times have you successfully played this, or how many times have you spoiled, and things like that, or what was the highest amount of mana you ever had, and things like that. Oh man, would have really made this just a much more recommendable version. But without that, it just feels kind of bare bones. And I don't think the value is great for that price point. I just, let me say this too. I don't love this model of DLC. I don't love this model of downloadable content where, you're going to buy the base game and then you're going to purchase all these expansions separately and pay a lot more money. I mean, you really better be giving us some content for those if that's what you're offering. And I'm just not sure that this fits the bill for that in terms of the Switch version I'm talking about. I would much rather prefer, when it comes to downloadable content, one of two models. One would be where you pay for the game, and even if it costs a little bit more, now I would feel more comfortable if you charged me, $40 for this game, but you said, hey, when we come out with expansion sets, we're going to update your game. You're going to download an update patch that adds the information to it. I know this is a weird comparison to compare it to, but Yu-Gi-Oh did that. Yu-Gi-Oh had recently a huge update download where they added a ton of cards, changed some functionality based on some rule changes and things like that. And so they added a bunch of content. They even added some single player content to the game, and it was free. They didn't charge anything. It was not a downloadable expansion pack or anything like that. Now, I know the makers of this game are kind of bound by what the physical board game does, and that's how it works with that game. So I don't want to completely kill them on that. I just say, as a customer, I don't love that. Are they going to come out with another expansion next week? If I really love the game, then maybe I want to buy that. But how much am I going to invest in the game before I'm done? I just don't like that feeling of not knowing the answer to that question. So my ultimate feeling with Mystic Vale is it's a good game. Playing the game of Mystic Vale is a good, fun game, and you will have fun with it. Which version is right for you is a question that you will have to try to answer for yourself. You can save a lot of money and get the app on your phone. You could get the physical board game version and sit with your friends around the table and have a good time that way. Or maybe the eShop version is the best version for you. And so I wanted to put all the information in front of you. You could decide for that. For me, I would give the game about a 6.5 out of 10. It was enjoyable. I wish there was more achievements and unlockables. That would have really made it a lot better. But it was still a fun game. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, you got to cultivate that land. Get out there and check it out. All right, guys. Y'all have a great day.